Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today a little differently. I want to try a visualization experiment with you.
Ooh, I like this.
So, if you were driving a car right now or, operating heavy machinery, please keep your eyes open. Safety first, always.
Yes, please. No accidents on our account.
But if you're on the train or sitting on your couch or maybe just out walking the dog, I want you to close your eyes for just a moment.
Going on a trip?
We are. I want you to imagine a city. But, and this is important, don't just picture a regular map. I want you to imagine a massive, sprawling, complex metropolis, but you're seeing it at night.
Okay.
It is vibrant, it is electric, you're looking down on it from, say, a helicopter. You can see these huge 8-lane superhighways where the traffic is just flowing. It looks like rivers of white light going one way and rivers of red light going the other.
Right, that classic time-lapse shot.
Exactly that. And it's smooth, it's fast, it's completely effortless. Thousands of cars, but they're all streaming by like a single organism.
It's the kind of infrastructure where you don't even have to think about driving. You just go. Your car's just pulled along by the current.
Exactly. But then I want you to zoom in, look closer. Tell the helicopter pilot to get a little lower. Turn off that highway. Now you're on the side streets.
Okay.
Maybe they're paved with concrete, maybe asphalt, but they're definitely narrower. There are stop signs. There are, potholes here and there. The traffic slows right down.
Okay, it's a bit bumpier.
It's a lot bumpier. You have to pay attention to pedestrians, to cyclists, to someone opening their car door without looking. It requires your focus. You can't just zone out here.
And then, let's go even further out, beyond the suburbs, where the streetlights end.
Right. You go way, way out to the edges of the city. The pavement just stops. And now you're looking at tall grass, at weeds, at this thick, overgrown brush. It's basically a jungle out here. And cutting through that wilderness, you can see these tiny, faint footpaths. You can barely even see them. If you tried to walk down one, you'd be hacking away at branches. With a machete, you'd be tripping over roots hidden in the grass. It is a struggle.
So slow.
It is agonizingly slow. It's exhausting.
Feels like a hostile environment for travel.
Yeah.
You're measuring your progress in inches, not miles per hour.
Now, open your eyes. That city, that isn't New York. It's not Tokyo. It's not London. That entire landscape is the physical, structural map of your own brain.
It is a striking image, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what we're finding in the research we're covering today, it's so powerful because this isn't just poetic license. It's not just a pretty metaphor to make us feel good about learning. This is a structural reality.
Today we are deep diving into a source titled Mapping the Mind, the Highway to New Habits. And honestly, this research completely, and I mean completely, shifted my perspective on how I think about myself. Well, I think, like a lot of people, I tend to think of my habits or my skills as these abstract things. I'll say, I have good willpower, or I lack discipline. It feels very, emotional, or maybe even character-based.
Right, we tend to moralize it. We see a bad habit as a character flaw, something wrong with us, and a good habit as a virtue, something that makes us a better person.
Exactly. But this source, it argues that it's not about morality at all. It's actually about civil engineering. It's about road construction. It's all about biology and physics.
Precisely. We are talking about the biological infrastructure of who you are, the physical substance of your personality. And today, we're going to look at why some things are incredibly easy for you, like, say, doom scrolling on your phone for 2 hours without even noticing.
Or driving to work and having no memory of the trip whatsoever.
Exactly. And why other things, like trying to start that jogging routine you promised yourself you'd do, or finally learning Spanish for that trip, why that feels like you're wading through quicksand.
So the mission for today is, it's simple, but it's massive. We want to understand how this city actually gets built. How do we turn one of those miserable dirt paths into a gleaming superhighway?
And maybe more importantly, if we have some superhighways that we really don't like, say a bad habit of stress eating, or snapping at our partner when we're tired, can we tear them down?
Can we redraw the map?
We can. And the foundational concept here, the bedrock of this entire discussion, is a term you've probably heard of, but we're going to dismantle it and really look at the mechanics. It's neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, right. It's become a bit of a buzzword lately. You see it on, brain training apps and self-help books. But what does the source actually mean by it in this context? Because I think some people hear plastic and they just think cheap or fake.
No, not plastic like a water bottle.
Yeah.
It's plastic in the original sense of the word, plasticity. It means malleable, flexible, capable of being molded or shaped for a long, long time. And I mean, up until fairly recently in medical history. Scientists thought the adult brain was basically fixed. They thought you were born, your brain developed rapidly through childhood and your teen years, and then, somewhere in your early 20s, the concrete dried.
That's it, you're done.
That was it. You were set. The map was drawn, printed, and laminated.
Which is a genuinely terrifying thought. This is you for the next 60 years, hope you like it. So if you have a bad temper at 25, you'll have it at 85.
Exactly. That was the medical dogma.
Yeah.
But neuroplasticity tells us the complete opposite. It means the brain is not a static object. It is a construction site that never, ever closes. It is constantly remodeling itself based on what you do, what you think, and what you pay attention to.
Every thought, every action, every feeling is essentially rearranging the furniture in your head.
Or, to stick with our metaphor, it's sending out construction crews or demolition crews. Every moment, you're either reinforcing a road or you're letting one get overgrown with weeds.
A construction site that never closes? I love that. It implies active work, it implies noise and dust and constant change. It implies that we aren't helpless victims of our biology, but we are, in fact, the chief architects of it.
That's the empowering part. We are the architects.
So let's put on our hard hats, let's walk through the city. The source material uses this metropolis of the mind analogy so well, and I want to really break down the different zones of the city for everyone.
Let's do it. It's honestly the best way to visualize what is happening at a microscopic cellular level.
Okay, so we mentioned the 3 types of roads in the intro. Let's start with the big ones, the highways. In the source, these are described as the carpeted, paved roads. Wide, smooth, and most importantly, they are the path of least resistance.
These represent your dominant habits and your deep-seated skills. These are the things you do on autopilot. And I think it's important to clarify here, when we say skills, we aren't just talking about playing the violin or coding. We're talking about your automatic responses. We're talking about the way you navigate the world emotionally and physically.
Give me an example. What does a highway look like in daily life? It's not just brushing my teeth, is it?
No, it goes much deeper. Okay, think about an emotional trigger. Let's say you're in a meeting at work and a specific colleague, we all have one, critiques your project in front of everyone.
Oof, okay. I have a person in mind.
Right. If your immediate automatic internal reaction is a flare of defensive anger or maybe a pit in your stomach of shame or the urge to just shut down, that reaction is a highway.
Interesting. So a highway isn't just, I know how to type on a keyboard. It's, I know how to get angry when Steve talks.
Exactly. It's a neural pathway where the signal travels at lightning speed with absolutely zero friction. You don't have to try to get angry.
Yeah.
It just happens. That signal hopped on the Autobahn in your brain and was at its destination before your conscious mind even realized you'd started the car.
And is there a specific part of the brain that's in charge of these highways?
There is. Biologically, this is often handled by a part of the brain called the basal ganglia.
The basal ganglia.
Yes. Think of the basal ganglia as the brain's pattern recognition machine. It's the part that learns and stores the scripts for complex behaviors so you don't have to think about them. When you drive home and don't remember the trip, that's because your basal ganglia was driving. It was just running the drive home script on a massive, well-paved highway.
Which explains why those emotional reactions feel so uncontrollable. They're just too fast. The signal is literally zooming past the conscious thinking part of my brain.
It bypasses it completely.
Okay, so that's the highway, the effortless, automatic stuff. Then the source talks about the side roads.
Right. These are described as your standard concrete or gravel roads. They're perfectly functional. We use them, but maybe not every single day. They aren't as smooth and fast as the highways. You can drive on them, but you feel the bumps.
So this would be something like, maybe a recipe I cook once a month. I know how to do it. I don't need to relearn it from scratch every time, but I probably have to check the measurements on the recipe card.
Perfect example.
I have to think about it. I can't do it while also watching TV and having a deep conversation.
Exactly. The neural pathway exists. It's defined. It's there. But it's not a superhighway. You can't do it while you're half asleep.
Right.
It requires some conscious input from the thinking part of your brain.
And then my favorite visual from the source, the footpaths, the wilderness, the jungle.
The frontier.
Yes, the frontier. The source describes these as these tiny, narrow tracks through the wilderness. It's like a deer trail in the woods. You're pushing aside branches, you're tripping over roots, it's muddy, it's slow.
These represent anything new. This is you on day one of learning Mandarin. This is you trying to write your name with your non-dominant hand. This is you trying to quit sugar and forcing yourself to eat a salad instead of reaching for a cookie.
Ugh, I can feel that.
The neural pathway is barely there. It is weak, it is narrow, and it is incredibly difficult and inefficient to traverse.
I think we've all felt that footpath feeling. It's that sensation of total clumsiness, of mental fog. Your brain actually feels like it's straining, like a muscle you haven't used.
It is straining. Because here, the basal ganglia, that autopilot system, can't help you at all. It doesn't have a script for this. This is brand new territory. So you have to engage the prefrontal cortex.
The CEO of the brain.
That's the one. That's the part responsible for focus, for planning, for conscious, deliberate thought. And let me tell you, the CEO is very, very expensive to run.
Expensive in what sense? Like in terms of energy?
Huge energy cost. The prefrontal cortex is a gas guzzler. That's why you feel so mentally drained after studying something new for just 20 or 30 minutes. You're literally burning through glucose to forge that new path through the biological wilderness.
But here's where the source makes a point that, for me, is the most hopeful part of this entire deep dive. It's a game changer. It points out that every single massive paved 8-lane superhighway in your brain, every expert skill, every ingrained habit, good or bad, started as a mere footpath.
That is the key. It is the universal law of learning and mastery. Every expert was once a fumbling beginner.
It's so hard to imagine, isn't it? You look at someone like Serena Williams serving a tennis ball. The power, the precision. It looks like magic. It looks like she was born with that highway pre-installed in her brain.
She wasn't. At some point, Serena Williams swung a racket and missed the ball completely.
Yeah.
At some point, that motion was the struggle. At some point, Mozart fumbled the keys on the piano. Every massive neural infrastructure started as one person hacking through the weeds with a machete over and over again.
So if the brain is the city and we are the travelers, what is the construction crew? What is the actual biological mechanism that turns that awful, muddy dirt path into a superhighway? Because I have plenty of dirt paths that have stayed dirt paths my whole life.
We all do.
Right. I tried to learn guitar in college. I played for a month. It was hard. My fingers hurt. I stopped. That road is still a dirt path today. It never became a highway. So what was missing?
That's the key question. The catalyst is one word, and it's a word we all know but maybe don't fully appreciate the biology of. It's repetition.
Repetition.
Simply walking the path again and again and again. The source emphasizes that the transformation from footpath to highway isn't about magic or talent. It's about traffic. The more trashing a road gets, the more the city planner, which is your biology, invests in upgrading that road.
I want to pause here because repetition sounds so boring. It sounds like something your gym teacher would shout at you. It sounds like rote memorization. But the source gets into the biology of repetition, and that's where it gets absolutely fascinating. We aren't just saying do it a lot. We're saying doing it a lot triggers a specific biological event.
Exactly. We need to look under the hood of the car. When we say construction, we don't mean metaphorical little workers with tiny steamrollers inside your skull. We are talking about cellular biology. We are talking about electricity and chemistry and fat.
And this brings us to a famous maxim in neuroscience that the source highlights. It's called Hebb's Law. And the phrase, if you, the listener, take one thing away from this section, it should be this. The phrase is, neurons that fire together wire together.
It's catchy, isn't it? It's one of those things that just sounds because it rhymes.
It does. But let's deconstruct it. What does it actually mean to fire and wire? Because I'm picturing tiny little explosions in my head.
Okay, let's zoom in. Imagine we're shrinking down to the cellular level. Your brain is made up of roughly 86 billion nerve cells called neurons. Think of them as the individual citizens of your mental city.
86 billion. That's a lot of citizens.
It's an enormous number. Now, neurons are sociable. They want to talk to each other. When you perform any action, let's go back to trying to juggle 3 balls. A specific sequence of neurons has to activate. They fire. This means they send an electrical impulse, which is called an action potential, down a long arm-like fiber called an axon.
An action potential. Sounds like a superhero movie title.
It basically is. It's a tiny spark of electricity, a little bolt of lightning. So you throw the ball up, and a specific team of neurons lights up in a specific order to control your arm, your eye, your timing.
Okay, so I throw the ball, the spark goes off. What happens next?
Correct. Now, the very first time you try to juggle, those neurons that need to work together are strangers. They've never collaborated before. They might be physically far apart in the brain. The signal is weak. It's uncoordinated.
So it's like a bad conference call.
It's a very bad conference call. One neuron fires, but the next one in the chain is a bit slow to pick up the phone. The chemical handshake between them, the neurotransmitters crossing the gap called a synapse, is clumsy and slow. That's why you drop the ball. That's why the whole motion feels so awkward and jerky.
So the clumsiness I feel in my hands is actually a direct reflection of a communication breakdown between neurons in my brain.
Precisely, yes. It's a lag. It's static on the line. But Hebb's law states that if you make them fire at the same time repeatedly, if you pick that ball up and throw it again and again and again, they start to connect. They physically reach out to one another.
They reach out. You mean like physically growing?
Physically growing. Neurons have these arm-like structures called axons, which send signals, and then these branch-like receivers called dendrites. When a set of neurons fires together often enough, the dendrites actually grow and branch out, creating more connection points. They build a synapse, a dedicated connection point. It's like a handshake that gets tighter and more familiar every time.
So they're literally wiring themselves together, building a dedicated phone line between them.
Literally. They are forming a circuit. The more they fire together, the stronger and more efficient that connection becomes. It's really like a friendship. If you see someone once at a party, you're acquaintances. The connection is weak. If you see them and talk to them every single day, you become best friends. You start finishing each other's sentences. Neurons are the same. They become sensitized to each other's signals.
I really like the analogy the source uses here, going back to the footpath. It says to imagine walking through a field of tall, thick grass. The very first time you walk across, you have to stomp the grass down. It's hard work. You look back and you can barely even see where you walked. The grass just springs right back up.
Right. If you walk it once and never come back, in an hour, the path is gone. The grass recovers. No change has been made.
Exactly. But if you walk that exact same line the next day, the grass is already a little bit bent from yesterday. It's a tiny, tiny bit easier to push through. If you walk it every single day for a month, you've worn a clear dirt path. The grass doesn't grow back there anymore. The path is established.
That is a perfect visualization of Hebb's law in action. You are clearing the resistance. You are making it physically easier for the electrical signal to travel from A to B to C. But, and here's where we level up. The brain does something even more impressive than just clearing the grass.
Because a dirt path is still just a dirt path, right? You can't drive a Ferrari on a dirt path. You can't play a Rachmaninoff concerto on a dirt path neural circuit. It's still not fast enough.
Exactly. Hebb's law gets you the dirt path. It gets the neurons connected and talking to each other. But to get the superhighway, to get that effortless, lightning-fast, high-speed performance, we need to call in the paving crew. We need the asphalt. We need speed.
And this is where we get into the tarring process. This was the part of the source material that really, truly blew my mind. I always thought practice makes perfect was just a saying. I didn't realize there was a physical, biological substance involved in making things perfect.
Oh, it is very physical. And it has a name. The source introduces a biological substance, a fatty substance, called myelin.
Myelin. That's M-Y-E-L-I-N.
Myelin. It's a fatty, white substance. It's actually made of lipids and proteins. If you've ever heard of white matter in the brain versus gray matter, the white matter is white because it's covered in all this fatty myelin.
And the source compares it directly to putting tar on the road.
An excellent comparison. So we have these wires, these axons connecting our neurons, and myelin is like, what would you say, insulation.
Exactly what I was thinking. Like the rubber coating on an electrical wire in your house. If you just have a bare copper wire and you try to send electricity through it, what happens?
Well, first off, it's really dangerous. But also, the electricity leaks out. The signal degrades over distance. It can short circuit and interfere with other wires next to it. It moves, but not very efficiently.
Right. But if you wrap that same wire in a thick rubber insulation, the signal stays perfectly contained. It doesn't leak. It moves much more efficiently and much, much faster.
So myelin is the brain's custom-ordered rubber insulation.
That's it. It wraps around the axons of the neurons, those long arms that send the signals. And this is done by these amazing, specialized glial cells called oligodendrocytes.
Oligodendrocytes. Okay, that is a mouthful. Can we just call them the paving crew?
We can absolutely call them the paving crew. So these paving crew cells, they sense the electrical activity in a frequently used neuron, and they essentially wrap themselves around the axon layer after layer after layer, like you're wrapping a sprained ankle with a roll of tape.
Okay, so my brain is wrapping my nerves in fat. What does that actually do for me? Why do I care?
Speed. Pure, unadulterated speed and efficiency. The source gives us a staggering statistic here. This is the one that really made me sit up and reread the page. Myelination increases the speed of the message traveling along that nerve by up to 100 times.
Wait, did I get it?
100 times faster. 100x?
That can't be right.
Yeah.
That's not a small improvement. That's a fundamental phase shift.
It's unbelievable. Imagine the difference between walking at 1 mile per hour and driving a supercar at 100 miles per hour. That is the biological difference between an unmyelinated footpath and a fully myelinated superhighway in your brain.
That is wild. That explains everything about the difference between a clumsy beginner and a graceful expert. Right. It's not just that the expert knows more in some abstract sense. It's that their brain is physically measurably faster at that specific task. The hardware has been upgraded.
It explains why, when you're a beginner, you feel so slow. You're trying to think of the Spanish word for cat, and it takes you like 5 seconds to find it in your memory. It's not just that you don't know it well, it's that the signal is traveling on that slow, leaky dirt road. It's meandering.
Exactly. But when you watch a professional musician, an athlete, even a fast typist, their fingers are just flying. It's not just that they know the song better intellectually. Their biological hardware is fundamentally different from a beginner's. They have thick, thick layers of myelin wrapped around those specific motor circuits. They have tarred the road into a superhighway. The signal zips from the intention in the brain to the movement in the finger in milliseconds.
So the delay between thought and action basically disappears.
It becomes instantaneous, and it also becomes incredibly precise. Myelin also prevents the signal from leaking out and accidentally firing the wrong muscles nearby. That's why a beginner's hand shakes when they try to draw a straight line, and a professional artist's hand is perfectly steady. Less signal leakage.
But this brings us back to the construction metaphor. You can't just wish for myelin. You can't go to the store and buy it.
No, you can't take a myelin pill, unfortunately.
So how do I summon the paving crew? How do I tell these oligodendrocyte cells to come to this specific road, my guitar-playing road, and start wrapping it up?
There is only one signal they respond to. And we're back to it again, repetition. But, more specifically, it's the consistent, repeated firing of that exact circuit.
But there's a nuance here, isn't there? The source hints that it's not just mindless repetition. It's not just zoning out and doing it 1,000 times. It's about struggle.
That's a crucial distinction. The paving crew doesn't show up for easy tasks that you can already do perfectly. They show up when the circuit is under load. When you are straining to reach that difficult guitar chord, when you are forcing yourself to focus on the text to understand it, when you miss and have to correct yourself, you are firing those neurons with intensity and precision. That focused electrical activity is what triggers a chemical release that tells the surrounding glial cells, hey, the circuit is important. We're using it heavily. We need an upgrade over here, stat.
And the brain responds by sending in the myelin trucks.
Exactly. Dispatch the paving crew. We need insulation on this wire immediately.
That completely changes how I view the feeling of frustration. Because usually when I'm practicing something and I get frustrated because I keep messing up, I feel like I'm failing. I feel like I'm not getting this. This is pointless. I should stop.
But biologically, that moment of frustration, that struggle, is the trigger.
Right. That frustration is the signal flare you're sending up. It's you calling the construction crew on the radio. If I stop the moment it gets hard, the crew gets the call, but then they're told, never mind, false alarm, and they turn around and go home.
Precisely. You have to stay in that pocket of productive struggle long enough for the signal to be sent and for the biological process to begin. You are literally engaging in biological engineering every time you practice. You are the architect.
Yeah.
But you only get the high-end building materials delivered to the site if you put in the work orders through focused effort.
That is so incredibly empowering. It means the struggle isn't a sign to stop. It's a sign that construction has officially begun. But I want to pivot a bit from the biology. We've talked about the construction. Now let's talk about the user experience. Because driving on a highway feels completely different from hiking a muddy trail. The source talks a lot about this idea of effort versus flow.
And this is where we get into the psychology of it all, which, as we'll see, is directly tied to the underlying biology we've been discussing.
So the source says that driving on the highway is effortless. It uses this great phrase, shape-eke, which means to do something coolly or easily.
Right. Think about your daily commute home from work. You've probably done it 1,000 times. It's a superhighway in your brain. You can do it while you're listening to a deep dive like this one, while you're planning what to make for dinner, while you're talking to your mom on the phone through the car's Bluetooth.
I have definitely had that spooky experience where I pull into my driveway and realize I have absolutely no memory of the last 10 minutes of the drive. It's scary, actually.
It feels scary, but it's actually a sign of the brain being incredibly efficient. It's called automatic processing. Because that road is so well paved, so heavily myelinated, your conscious mind doesn't need to be involved in the moment-to-moment driving.
We mentioned the CEO of the brain earlier.
Right, the prefrontal cortex, that's the CEO. It handles complex decisions, analyzing new information, maintaining intense focus. It's the part of you that is paying attention, and it consumes a ton of energy.
But the highways, the ingrained habits.
Those are handled by the basal ganglia. That's the autopilot system.
So when I'm driving home, my CEO basically goes on a coffee break.
Exactly. The CEO says, I've got bigger problems to solve, like what to say in that email tomorrow. Basal ganglia, you take the wheel. And the basal ganglia just runs the preloaded drive-home script down that myelinated highway. It's low energy, it's efficient, it's smooth.
But then, let's compare that to the footpath. When I'm on a footpath learning that brand new skill, I can't be on autopilot, not for a second.
No way. The footpath requires the CEO to be in the driver's seat, both hands on the wheel, eyes glued to the road.
This is like when you first learn to drive a manual transmission. I remember being 16. I couldn't listen to the radio. If someone even talked to me, I'd panic and stall the car. I was gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles were white, just staring at the RPM gauge. Am I too close to the curb? How much pressure on the brake? When do I shift?
It was exhausting, right?
Yeah.
Mentally and physically.
I was drenched in sweat after just 20 minutes of driving around the block.
Because your prefrontal cortex was firing on all cylinders. You were burning a massive amount of glucose to push that signal through unpaved, uncoordinated, unmyelinated neurons. The resistance was incredibly high. The signal kept getting lost or delayed. The CEO had to micromanage every single neuron in the sequence. Okay, left foot, push the clutch. Right hand, move the shifter. Okay, now ease off the clutch while adding gas.
And this connects to the why, the big question. Why is it so hard to change our habits? Why do we always default to our bad habits, especially when we're stressed? Why do I eat the cookie instead of the apple?
Because the brain is at its core an energy miser. This is a fundamental rule of biology.
Yeah.
Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, but it can consume up to 20% of your daily energy. It is constantly, obsessively trying to find ways to save fuel.
So it's lazy.
I'd say it's efficient. Evolutionarily, saving energy meant survival. So at any given moment, your brain presents you with a choice. You can take the highway, the bad habit. It's paved, it's fast, it's downhill, and it costs almost zero conscious energy to drive on. Or you can take the footpath, the new healthy habit. It's bumpy, it's slow, it's uphill, and it costs a fortune in mental energy.
So when I'm tired or stressed or overwhelmed,
The CEO is tired. The prefrontal cortex is depleted of its resources. So the basal ganglia, the autopilot, takes over. And the basal ganglia always takes the highway. It is programmed to take the path of least resistance.
that makes so much sense. So we aren't fighting weakness or a lack of moral fiber. We are fighting the fundamental law of energy conservation in our own biology.
Exactly. Breaking a bad habit is so hard because you are actively, consciously choosing to take a bumpy, muddy, difficult off-road path when there is a perfectly smooth 8-lane superhighway right next to it that leads to the same immediate destination, say, a hit of dopamine or a feeling of stress relief.
It really reframes the whole struggle. It's not, I'm bad at this. It's, this road is biologically expensive to drive on right now.
And your brain hates expense. But, and this is the crucial turning point in our deep dive, we are not stuck with the map we currently have. The city is never finished.
We can close roads.
We can close roads, and we can build new ones wherever we want.
This brings us to the demolition crew. We asked earlier, what happens to the roads we stop using? If I stop playing the piano for 10 years, does that myelinated highway just stay there forever, perfectly preserved?
Okay.
If I finally manage to stop smoking, does that nicotine highway eventually disappear?
It does not stay forever. The source introduces this amazing concept of the jungle effect, or more scientifically, synaptic pruning.
Synaptic pruning. It sounds like gardening.
It is exactly like gardening. Your brain has these other amazing glial cells, this time they're called microglia, that act as the city's gardeners and its trash collectors. They're constantly patrolling the entire neural city.
And what are they looking for on their patrols?
They're looking for unused connections. They're looking for weak synapses. The brain, as we said, is an incredibly efficient city planner. It does not like to waste precious resources maintaining roads that no one ever drives on. Maintaining those billions of synapses, keeping that myelin healthy, that all takes energy and proteins.
So if a road goes quiet, if the traffic stops,
If a road goes unused for a long enough period of time, the brain marks it for demolition. The microglia come in, they literally eat away the synaptic connections that aren't being used.
they eat them.
They engulf them. It's a process called phagocytosis. They prune them back, just like a gardener prunes dead branches off a rose bush to allow the healthy branches to get more resources.
The jungle grows back over the road.
The jungle grows back, the connections weaken, the physical synapse actually breaks apart. The myelin sheath is scavenged, and its components are recycled to be used somewhere else, on a road that is getting traffic. The brain effectively says, well, no one has been down this path in 6 months. Let's reclaim these valuable materials for a new construction project over there.
That is the use it or lose it principle in literal biological action.
Precisely. And this gives us the real secret to breaking bad habits. I think a lot of us try to break habits by fighting them. We try to blow up the highway with dynamite. We scold ourselves. We sit there and obsess over not doing the thing.
I will not eat the cookie. I will not eat the cookie. I will not.
Exactly. But by obsessing over it, even in a negative way, you're still focusing your attention on the highway. You're still standing on the on-ramp, looking at the road. You are keeping that neural circuit active in your mind.
So what does the source suggest we do instead?
The source suggests a much more passive approach. Just stop driving on it. You don't need to dig it up with a shovel. You just need to block the entrance and take a different route. If you stop performing the habit, if you stop sending electrical traffic down that neural pathway, the biological process of synaptic pruning will take over naturally and do the demolition work for you.
You starve it of attention.
Starve it of traffic. And slowly but surely, the weeds will start to poke through the asphalt. The connection will weaken.
That is such a relief to hear. You don't have to actively destroy the bad habit. You just have to neglect it. You let nature take its course.
But, and there is always a but, you have to be patient. Remember, we're talking about a superhighway. It has thick myelin. It has strong, well-established connections. It takes a long time for nature to reclaim an 8-lane paved highway.
It's not going to disappear in a week.
Not a chance. You might stop smoking for a month, and that highway is still there. It's just a little dusty. That's why relapse is so easy in the beginning. The road hasn't crumbled yet. It's still paved and very, very easy to get back on.
So if you slip up, you're not starting from scratch. You're just right back on the Autobahn going 100 miles an hour.
Exactly. But if you keep off it, if you persist in taking the new path, eventually the cracks will appear in the old one. The asphalt will crumble. And one day it will degrade all the way back into a simple footpath and then eventually disappear into the jungle altogether.
So we've got the construction crew, which is repetition and myelin, and we've got the demolition crew, which is pruning. Now let's talk about the master plan. The source uses this fantastic phrase, reprogramming the system.
This is the empowering truth that all this science leads to. The source concludes that because of neuroplasticity, you have the fundamental power to reprogram yourself. You are not your habits. You are the architect of your habits.
The source says, and I'm quoting here, you can change your habits, your skills, and essentially the person you are. That is a really big claim.
It is, but it's backed by every piece of the science we've just discussed.
Yeah.
Think about it for a second. What is personality?
I usually think of personality as, I don't know, the core of me, my soul or something.
But from a behavioral science perspective, your personality is largely a collection of your dominant neural pathways, your default settings.
My highway.
Your highways. If you tend to be an anxious person, that's because you have a well-paved, heavily myelinated anxiety highway. If you tend to be a disciplined person, that's a discipline highway. If you can fundamentally change those highways, build new positive ones, and let the old negative ones rot, then you fundamentally change the person you are on a day-to-day basis.
So let's get practical. Let's break down the algorithm for change that the source gives us. If I'm the listener and I want to change my life starting tomorrow, what do I actually do? What are the instructions?
It really comes down to two main directives. They are simple to understand, but as we all know, very hard to execute consistently.
Okay, give me number one.
Directive number one. To build good habits, you must travel the new path repeatedly. You have to force the brain to lay down the asphalt. You have to generate enough traffic to justify the upgrade.
And that means you have to accept the footpath phase.
Yes. This is where most people quit. They quit in the first week or two because it feels so hard. They think, it shouldn't be this difficult. I must just be bad at this. But the science says it must be this hard at the beginning. The hardness is the signal for change.
You have to embrace the suck.
You have to embrace the clumsiness. You have to accept that the first 50 times you go to the gym or meditate or choose the apple, it will be slow. It will be unmyelinated. It will feel unnatural and forced. But you have to trust the biological process. You have to trust that every single time you stumble through it, you are summoning the paving crew. You are demanding the myelin.
Demand the myelin. I am definitely going to put that on a t-shirt. Okay, so that's building the good. What's directive number two?
Directive number 2. To break bad habits, you must reduce traffic on the old road. Stop doing the unwanted action. Starve it of the electrical signals it needs to survive.
So don't negotiate with it. Don't fight it. Just don't drive on it.
Correct. And a key part of this is to make it physically harder to get on that road. This is where creating friction comes in. If you want to stop checking your phone first thing in the morning, don't rely on willpower. Leave the phone charging in the kitchen overnight. Put a physical roadblock on the on-ramp to that highway.
Give the CEO, your prefrontal cortex, a fighting chance to wake up and say no before the autopilot basal ganglia takes over and grabs the phone.
Exactly. Delay the impulse. Make the old highway less convenient than the new footpath. And over time, the path will get overgrown. The jungle will reclaim it. It requires that conscious effort to steer the car away from the easy highway and onto the bumpy new path. But that is the work. That is the only work there is.
So at the end of the day, the listener is the city planner. We all have a budget, and that budget is our attention and our energy, and we have to decide every day which roads get that budget.
Exactly. You can't maintain every road in the city. You have to choose. Do you want to keep funding the scroll social media for 2 hours superhighway? Because that costs energy to maintain? Or do you want to divert those funds to the read a book for 20 minutes footpaths and start paving it?
It's a choice we make every single day with every single action.
Every single time you perform an action, you are casting a vote for what kind of brain you want to have in the future. You are authorizing a construction project.
That is a profound thought. Every action is a vote. I vote for this to be a highway. I vote for this one to be a weed-choked footpath.
Precisely. And over time, those thousands of little votes accumulate and build the entire city that is you.
Okay, wow. We have covered a lot of ground today. Pun definitely intended. We've toured the entire metropolis of the mind. Let's do a quick recap of the major landmarks we saw on our trip.
We started with the basic landscape. The brain as a city with superhighways, which are your ingrained habits, and those muddy footpaths, which are new skills. And we learned that thanks to neuroplasticity, this city's construction site never closes.
We then looked at the biological foundation, Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together, wire together. That's how you clear the grass and create the initial dirt path.
Then we met the all-important construction crew, the oligodendrocytes and their biological tar, myelin. That's the fatty substance that speeds up our neural processing by an incredible 100x, but it's only created through focused struggle and repetition.
We talked about the user experience, the effortless flow of driving on a highway run by the basal ganglia autopilot versus the high-energy effort of forging a footpath, which requires the expensive CEO, the prefrontal cortex.
And finally, we talked about the cleanup crew and synaptic preening, the jungle that grows back and demolishes the roads we stop using, which is the key to breaking bad habits.
Which all led to the final conclusion. You are the programmer. You are the city planner. You have the power to build new roads and let the old ones fall into ruin.
You are in control of the map.
So here is my challenge to you, the listener, as we wrap up. Get into the work. Don't just listen to this deep dive and nod and say, that's interesting, and then go back to your old highways. Pick one dirt path in your life right now. Maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's a healthier reaction to stress, maybe it's a tiny routine like flossing your teeth. Decide today that you are going to turn that path into a highway.
And know that it's going to be bumpy at first. You're going to be hacking through the weeds. You're going to feel clumsy and slow. But remember what's happening under the surface. The paving crew is on the way. You just have to keep walking the path to show them where to work.
Demand the myelin.
Demand the myelin. And I'll leave you with this final thought to mull over as you go about your week. It's a question of identity.
Lay it on us.
If your personality is really just a collection of the roads you've traveled most frequently, who would you be if you decided to take the scenic route starting tomorrow? If you deliberately forced yourself off the familiar highway and onto an unknown, challenging path, what kind of city would you wake up in a year from now?
I love that. Who would you be? That is the question. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the highway inside your head.
Until next time.
Drive safe, everyone. See ya.